So it's been a long time coming, but I finally have another photo book critique, and this time we have someone special, an ex-AKB48 member, Itano Tomomi, which you probably guessed through the title. But yes, we have her new photo book release, photographed by ND Chow. So when I heard that Itano Tomomi was releasing a photo book, I was super excited and ordered one right away. And now that I have it, you will be able to see whether I sigh with relief or sigh in boredom. Now let me just forewarn that just like every other photo book critique I do, I will not be showing the whole photo book. I will only be showing select photos that will help prove a point or that I want to critique. So if you do want to see the full photo book, I definitely recommend going to go pick it up. Having it in print and in your hands is definitely way better than seeing it online. So usually for these photo books, I don't give a rating at the end. I give something else at the end, which you guys should go check out once you watch the whole video through. But that's enough talking. Let's go ahead and talk about the front cover and back cover to start. So looking at this front cover, this really gives off the vibe of what this photo book is going to be about. Like, I mean, seriously, this is like most of the photo book right here. And I think that's a benefit to this cover, that people know what they get into when they buy this photo book. And I mean, that sharpness, like right here, and then it gets blurry, like at her neckline, is really good. I just have to really appreciate that tack sharp focus that you got on there. And looking at the back, again, it sets that mood, but this could also be taken as an ending of the book, kind of like going from the beginning over here to the ending, which is like her rear. So it's a nice little play on like, here's her front side, here's her back side. And usually in the photo book critiques, I go through the inside cover, but the photo is actually inside the photo book, so I'll talk about it when that shows up. So of course, as always, I have to start out with the first image of the photo book, and we have this one right here. So you can see here that it's really playful, and it's not so much about the face, but it's more about the mood of the actual photo. Now, even the fingers are cut off here, you can still see they left a little bit of the web of the fingers, which means she does have fingers, which means it doesn't look like she's an amputee in the photo, which is actually pretty good for them to include that little detail over there. And also something else here is you see a reflection of something over here that's blue in the corner. I wonder what that could be. Well, we'll find out on the next page. And it took a couple pages, but we finally got to see what the blue thing was, and you can actually see that it's a car. Now this shot is a little bit different than the ordinary photo book photos you see, because it's centered all around here and the car, and usually you wouldn't want to do that in a regular Idol's photo book. But Itano Tomomi is no longer in that category, so now it's all out. Now here's two that I don't think should go together. One, because right here all dry, right here all wet. So I feel like it should have been flipped the other way around, especially since this is kind of like the American style of turning books. So maybe just flipping them to kind of like her getting ready and then crouching down and cleaning the car. Maybe that would have made more sense. And then we have a sequence of different shots of her laying on the car. It seems like they really should have only picked one of these. I feel like there's not really much more story to tell with the rest of these images being there. And you know, in this photo right here, the sun is just blazing in her eyes. She's like, hurry up and take the picture. The next one is actually intentional, or what seems to be more intentional than the other ones, because in this one, she's actually laying down on the car, and there's this nice angle right here, kind of accentuating the hip and making this go down, shoulder come up, kind of that S curve that I've been talking about in other videos with modeling. In this one, you get to see the full features of Itano Tomomi, and you get to see the car there, kind of giving the theme of the rest of the shoot of the car wash. And after going through many photos and pages of a car wash, we finally get to see her in the car at the beach. So in this one, we have a nice little simple outfit, a little crop top, a little skirt, and some heels on. And one little detail that I do have to mention is right here, you can see the sunglasses, and they actually match the shoes, which is actually a very nice touch. And going overall, based on this photo alone, this one's kind of like trying to set a mood, but it's a little bit blurry and they had to add sharpness to it. But in this one is actually pretty nicely posed, and with the heels coming up, you're still giving that angles in the photo, and also having the S curve by her positioning herself and being able to lean on the car and helping her accentuate a little more. And I also like the kind of over the shoulder look to her, where it kind of helps accentuate the chin line right here. Now next up we have a long sequence of swimsuit photos, and honestly I got quite bored of these like as soon as there was 20 pages of the same swimsuit. And I mean, don't get me wrong, as a fan I think that's great, but looking at it from my perspective, I'm seeing, okay, just hurry up and get to the next one. We've seen this shoot already, and then just go change already, or at least change locations more. But we start off with this photo, which is actually the first photo of the series of swimsuits. But she is facing towards the sun, kind of giving the light on her face, making her cheekbone a little bit more defined, and also helping accentuate the stomach lines, making her look a little bit more slimmer, but not too slim where she looks like she's sick. Now we come to this image, and I really don't like this image because it makes everything look flat. Because I mean, you already have the water and the background that's flat. If you don't add any sky, especially since the sky is very blue, it makes everything look flat. And since her skin tone kind of matches over here, it makes everything kind of look two-dimensional. And not even mentioning that this pose isn't the most flattering to her. Now I will mention, I do like this photo right here, just because it gives a little bit more characteristics, and it's a little bit more appealing to the eye because of two things. One is the action that's going on with the wave, and two is the unintentional posing that she did with her hands. Now, I imagine she was doing something similar to this, but with both hands, kind of getting the hair out of the face. But this is a very natural way to do standard posing that you see in swimsuit magazines or even in model wear in the, probably like Target or some other fashion or department store magazine. So I do have to give props for the photographer for getting the right moment of getting that. Now here's another one I want to mention. This one right here. This one is very like kind of commercial-esque. And that's because the horizon line is actually a pretty good spot. It's not directly in the middle. I think it is in the middle. No, it's not directly in the middle. And we also got the S curve right here. Look at this right there. And then coming back, then bam, neck. Really nice posing. And then her drinking with it slipping through. Just adds that direct line of you just following the stream of water throughout the body. Next, we have these series of images. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of these, especially where they were placed. I feel like if they were properly placed, maybe not in the middle of beach shots, then this would have worked out, because this place is so much more contrasty than the other places that have been shown. I mean, here you can see the shadows are really much darker here, and that's probably because of one, there's probably less sand here and there's more dark rocks reflecting off and making the shadows a little bit harsher, and there's also because they probably did something in post. But looking at this makes your skin look like a little bit darker. But that's probably thanks to everything being monotone, which I do like monotone, so I do have to give him props for that. And by the way, I really do like this posing right here. Again, it isn't that traditional of an S-curve because we have this over here, but then since she pushes her arm up, we get to see that S-curve, bam, come back and be able to fully complete the womanly curve. And also right here, the knee kind of bending in front is very traditional in doing S-curves, so that also helps. Now this image right here is one that I really like. And there's something in here that I usually don't like, but I think it actually works in this photo. And that's these overblown highlights and whites over here. I feel like usually that's very distracting, but in this case, it doesn't really distract too much, and you actually help focus on the shadows over here. And I mean, it's a nice smile from her. It isn't like the super huge smile, but it's a nice smirk. Next, we have this series of images, which I'm not a really big fan of. It kind of looks like something you'd see for like senior portrait images. Not like, putting down senior portrait people, but I'm saying some people have like that stock, like when you think of senior portraits, this is what you think of. That's what I'm trying to go for. And really, that's all I have to say about these images because nothing really stuck out to me. Oh, we got a posing warning here, something you shouldn't do when photographing Itano Tomomi. And that one thing is, can you guys tell what it is from here? Can you tell? I'll give you guys a second to comment. You can actually pause the video. Okay, so the answer was, if you look at her arm, it looks very big and manly, if that's a weird way to say about Itano Tomomi's arm. But the reason for that is because of this area right here, showing the full front of the fists. Now, when you show the full front of the fist, it makes it look very wide. So if I went to like this, it looks very wide. Then if I go like this, then it looks a little softer because it's a little slimmer on the side, and then plus relaxed fingers kind of give off that relaxed vibe, which is more confident. So keep that in mind when you're photographing next time. And then next we move on to this series of image, which is another swimsuit one at the beach. You'll see a lot of that in here. But I actually like these two photos. This one because the soft lighting right here, but then it's a little harsh over here, which means they probably have a different source of lighting, which you can kind of see right here in the eye. It actually looks like a long strip right here. And the reason for that might be a strobe that they actually took, which will kind of explain why the background is a little bit darker. But yes, lighting is nice in these and it really accentuates everything. And also something I want to mention is This is crooked, this is straight. Next, I want to mention this photo right here. And I want to say the posing is very, very nice. If only the break wasn't here. I'm happy it wasn't at the stomach line where everything would have looked just nasty, because then the curves wouldn't be there. But I feel like it might be hard to pull off this photo without it being on the side right here, and instead of being a 2-page spread. I think there's something we could learn from other photo books we've seen, that sometimes it's better for it to just be on one page on the side. Now this image right here. This image, when I look at this image, I think 90s Sports Illustrated. And that's because of two reasons. Number one is because the background is super saturated. And number two is because of the golden tone on her. And this is probably caused by a golden reflector. Either that or like a light that was a little bit colored temperature differently. Because if you look at her eyes, there's actually 2 dots of lights coming at her, which probably means there was a light affected in here. And it would have to be pretty soft in order to do these shadows right here. This paper leaves fingerprints all over the place. That's what I don't like about it. Another thing that I liked is that she's faced away from the lights. Usually she's faced toward the lights, but I kind of like how she looks facing away from the lights, making her face look a little bit longer. And another thing for them to try next time is maybe face towards the lights and then body away from the lights. That way you get the nice shadows on the body, but yeah, you get the nice lights on the face. And also something I want to mention real quick, whoever was in charge of putting sand on her did a really good job, because there's sand like at the right areas without being too distracting. It's actually at the shadow parts mostly, and it's a really nice touch. And then plus having like water on her like in little spots everywhere without being too distracting is also a very nice touch. Next we move on to the image which has no reason to be in here, and that's this image right here, because I mean, first of all, let's mention this white empty space right here which has no reason to be in here. And I mean, the photo itself is very bland. I mean, it's just her going like this. Kind of makes it look like a Loch Ness monster kind of. But I mean, it's trying to set off a mood, but I feel like there's other ways it could have done this. Next, we move on to her out on the town. And honestly, I've seen in other photo books this done very well. In this case, I don't think it's done very well at all. That purple light is way too strong of a color. I mean, you can see it both here and here. You can see how in some spots it looks so oversaturated that it's actually blown out in that color. And there's even like little edges there, seeing that they actually tried to calm it down, or they tried to make it stronger, because as you see right here, it's a very obvious cut right here, which means that something went a little haywire in post-production. Or maybe it's just naturally like that because the light's too strong. Next we move on to this on-camera flash lighting, which I do not like. I mean, sure, it gives off that feeling of like, hey, this is me and you, and I have a camera and I'm using the flash on it, and it kind of trying to do that intimate vibe to it. I mean, in that aspect, I can understand why they did it like this, but I feel like there were maybe other ways to pull this off without having the home feeling and more of the professional photo book feeling. Next we move to more 90s theme with this super Dutch angle of her walking down the street with her face like this, giving the angsty look. And we see the return of purple lights here and all the way back here. I have no idea where that's coming from. They're probably shooting around the same place, unless someone's lights are just like that. Next we move on to this image right here, which is a little series of rooftop pictures of the same outfit. The outfit isn't too bad, but I feel like this is a little bit more of a relaxed / workout outfit. I'm saying relaxed because it's very like thin material. And I'm saying workout because it's a similar style you would wear on a rooftop in the stereotypical scenario. But something that did catch my interest in this is actually her mouth. It's closed and very puckered, which she usually doesn't do. It's usually open or smiling. When I say open, I mean relaxed, not like, ugh. So yeah, it's a very different side of her that usually you don't see in the photo books. And also the hair is pretty nice how it's all swooping to one side, and that's thanks to the mighty wind. Next we have this one, which is actually a little bit exaggerated in the S-curve and slash. I'll explain right now. So whenever you have something closer to the lens, that usually becomes bigger than whatever is away from the lens. And in this case, she's really leaning forward and it's probably a wider lens, which makes her head look bigger, and then this looks super small, but in fact it's so small that it kind of looks kind of comical in a way, or caricature in nature. So this one might be a little exaggerated. I mean, you could even see in the shoulders versus the elbow how much of a difference there is. And then we go to this one, which is a little bit too much. I feel like maybe if she had like a nice docile feel and maybe a little bit more happy, excited feeling. This kind of posing, because it does feel like posing, it doesn't feel like you're modeling, kind of pose to it, would feel better if it was in a certain mood, but in this mood of serious, it doesn't really match, and especially with this scenario and background. And then move on to this picture right here, which is actually pretty nice. You can see this in magazines and stuff. I've seen this before, like for ads for perfume and cologne if it was guys. So this is a very popular thing to do, especially with this arm right here, with her going like this. And again, it's kind of showing the front. Maybe if she was like this, it would have looked a little better, but it doesn't distract me too much because of this big white thing right here. So I have to say this is a pretty good image overall. It's one of my favorites. It would have been like a tad bit better if there was like a little bit of a catch light right here. Maybe having like your assistant hold a flashlight or something would have added that. Next, we move on to the series of photos with her at a swimming pool, which I don't really like because the color blue in this and the color red in this are very, very strong. So this image right here is actually what the back cover looks like. And as you can see, it's not really that interesting. I feel like there's other photos in this photo book that would have been better for an inside cover. I feel like they were going for a certain mood here. I won't say royalty. I'll say like a little bit more classy look to it. Kind of like something you'd see in a fashion magazine. But I feel like it can't be fashion magazine because they're not accentuating the bikini, but it's also not too appealing to her because it's trying to show off the bikini at the same time. So there's a conflict of interest here. And then moving on to this photo, that angle really doesn't work that well for her. Again, whatever is closer to the camera is bigger. And in this case, it's like her forehead and her nose, which are bigger. Next, we have this series of indoor hotel shoots, which a lot of people do, which I feel like people have done better than what is shown here. But this one right here is one of my favorites. I like how she's hiding her face, but yet giving it shadow right here, making it a little bit more contrasting and giving it more character. With the light coming from the back, it is usually hard for getting the right tonal in the face, especially when there's shadow right here, but I feel like they did a very well job of keeping her a little bit farther from the window, not giving it so much contrast. And not to mention, she knows her angles very well. Next, I should mention these photos, and honestly, these feel probably the most amateur I've seen in a photo book. I know that sounds a little harsh, but honestly, like in intro to photo class, I've seen better people take images at these type of locations. I mean, even looking at this one right here, the whole point was getting her with this, but I feel like the lighting and everything really doesn't play into it that well. I feel like maybe they could have skipped this photo and added a different one. And even including this one just feels like, okay, just pose right there next to the wall. We need more photos. So let's take one right there. Okay, cool, I got it, let's go. And then we move back into more swimsuits, which kind of like, I don't know why they like randomly put a lot of swimsuit in there when there didn't really need to be that much in there. But yes, we have more. As a fan, again, I don't complain, but seeing it through a critiquing eye, it does really bother me. Yeah, I mean, just flipping through these photos, nothing really catches my eye. They're kind of just all blending in really, and nothing's really sticking out as like different or unique. Maybe like there's a little bit of different moods, maybe with her jumping, for example, these, or maybe her trying to pose. But I feel like there isn't anything jumping out at me because they all blend in with each other because they're pretty much all similarly shot. And then we move on to the final image. As I say, last image should be your second best image, especially in a portfolio. In a photo book, it's a little bit harder to do, especially if you flow right, but it still should be a strong image nonetheless, which leaves an impact on the person looking at the photo book, so they will remember the photo book for a long time. And this image right here doesn't really say that a lot. In this series, just looking at this series, let me see if I can find a better picture. That one's a little too try-hard. That one doesn't even show her face. That one is cropped weird. Look at this one. This one is just straight up 90s again. I don't know, maybe the photographer is a little older and shot a lot in the 90s, or is inspired a lot by that, but that is really the mood I get from some of these photos. But saying that, maybe that is the kind of mood that the photographer goes for. So maybe finishing off on this one, kind of reminding of the other styles of photo, would have been better. But then again, you want to be able to include this hand. So maybe the way to go would have been take out the one where she's going like this, and then include that two spread shot as a finale, then opening up to blue at the end, since it would be like a lot of blue, and then finishing off on pure blue at the end would have been a nice touch. Also, by the way, I did get this photo card with it. It is actually pretty nice. The posing is actually pretty nice too. It's a little bit straight on, and the light is a little bit different, which I actually like. It's not too standard of lighting, but yet it's not too distracting because the elbow is helping cause that shadow to be stopped. So nothing really to complain about the photo card for. So yeah, that was the end of the photo book. Overall, I think maybe there should have been a little bit more locations. Maybe you could have, I mean, even if it was different beaches that it was shot at in this photo book, it still feels like the same beach overall. I feel like they just switched out swimsuits. I feel like this photo book could have been taken in like 2 days, where in the day, all the way to sunset, it's all the bikini photos. And then at night, they shot those other photos, which were nightlife. And then the next day, they did a little bit more bikini. And then they did the hotel ones and a little bit of the grassy wheat ones. And they're like, all right, that does it. Let's go out and that's a wrap. Again, saying, critiquing this, not the best. As a fan, there are a lot of images which I did not show. They're actually really good. Definitely some very interesting photos, if you know what I mean. And if you're interested in that, I recommend picking it up for that reason. If you're looking at it for maybe as a coffee table piece, or maybe you want to keep in the photo book collection of good photos to show off to your other photographer friends, or to be like, oh yes, this photo book is quite nice. Maybe I could learn from something from this and be inspired by it. I feel like this might not be the right photo book for you. I feel like this is more for an Itano Tomomi fan who wants to see nice gravure from her. So that does it for this photo book. There are other photo books coming in soon. We have two Nogi members, and we have a couple AKB members who are releasing some pretty soon. So I will pick those up, most of them, if not all of them. And well, I guess you just have to wait and see what I actually get. You can actually see what I will think about them on Twitter sometimes, if I don't want to spoil it, or sometimes I do let it slip out. You can go ahead and follow that, or you can go ahead and subscribe to know when I upload a new photo book critique, as well as a weekly news video that I do every single week, which is why it's weekly. And you can go ahead and like the video and comment down below what you think about the photo book, if you do pick it up, or if you decide you will pick it up after all. Let me know what other photo books I should critique that are coming up soon, just so I could get kind of a range of what people want. And you can go ahead and comment down below, or you can actually go and send me a mention on Twitter. So that does it for this video, and as every video I say, I want to thank all of you guys for watching.